Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here with winnersandwhiners.com this time. Before we get into the play of the day, I'll give a brief explanation of what exactly is going on right now. Sure, a lot of you are expecting Scott Steen to be on today, but he will actually be unavailable to do any videos today and tomorrow. So they subbed in me, who's been doing some videos for statsalt.com, and now I've been coming to take his place. So my name is Scott Reichel, currently a sports writer at statsalt.com, and I've been giving out some YouTube videos for about the past month and a half, and I'm currently 23, 16, and 2 for plus 5.9 units. So Scott Sr., as I like to call him, is not available, so they called him Scott Jr. And either way, we will be providing you with some betting content, so I have a play of the day for you, and then I will give out my leans for the NBA and the NHL playoff games tonight. Or tomorrow, or later today, I should say. So without further ado, let's get this underway. We're going to be looking at a baseball game, and we will be looking at the New York Yankees money line, which is available at minus 111 at 5 dimes, as they are in San Francisco to take on the San Francisco Giants at Oracle Park. Just before we get into the play, we're just going to go into the recap of the pitchers. For the Yankees, you have Domingo Germán, who's pitching, who is 4-1 with a 1.75 ERA. And for the Giants, you have Derek Rodriguez, who's 3-2 with a 3.52 ERA, who's pitching for San Francisco. The Yankees are currently on fire, which is really odd considering the fact that all of their key players have pretty much all gotten injured. But the Yankees have actually won 8 of their last 9 games, and it is because of their potent offense. Despite all the injuries, the Yankees have actually scored at least 5 runs in 8 of their last 9 games, which has helped propel the Yankees back into second place in the AL East, about a game out of first place. Meanwhile, San Francisco has been the exact opposite, as their offense is probably the worst lineup in all of baseball. They have scored less than 5 runs in 7 of their last 8 games. Not to mention the fact that the San Francisco Giants are actually last in baseball in on-base percentage against righties, and the Yankees have the 7th highest on-base percentage in the league against righties. Overall, this is a huge mismatch for me. I think that the Giants, I understand with Rodriguez on the mound, who's their ace, quote-unquote. He is 0-2 at home with a 4+ ERA, so he is a little bit worse at home than he is on the road. Either or, people are trying to bet on this because of the fact that the Yankees are still using pretty much a double-A lineup and the fact that the Giants are in danger of getting swept at home. But overall, Germán does not bother me, as he is a very solid pitcher, 4-1 with a sub-2 ERA. He's been great. Yankees offense has been great, led by Luke Voit for the most part, as well as Urshela, who's done a really nice job filling in at third base. And Mayhew's also been great. The Yankees have a ton of role players who have stepped up, not to mention the fact that they've embraced kind of a small ball strategy without the big guns in Stanton and Judge. And they steal a lot of bases. Torres has stolen a couple bases. They even signed Cameron Maybin a couple days ago, who's a well-known base stealer in the league. And I think that the Yankees should be favored in this game, something by more than minus 111. If you shop around, there's minus 115 around. There's minus 115s. There's minus 120 on Bovada. Overall, the Yankees should be favored by a lot more. They should be roughly a minus 125, minus 130 favorite in this game, based on the Giants' current form and the fact that the Yankees have won 8 of their last 9 games. And not to mention the fact that the Yankees almost choked a 6-run lead yesterday. It's mostly because of the fact that Luis Cessa, in my opinion, who's one of the worst pitchers in baseball and probably shouldn't even be in the league, came in the 9th inning, gave up 4 runs. So he will not be pitching tomorrow, luckily for us. And I think the Yankees will be able to win a relatively low-scoring game with Germán in, quality form, and Rodriguez struggling a little bit at home, with that Giants offensive lineup being as inept as any other team in the league. So we will be going with the Yankees on the money line at minus 111, available at 5 dimes. But that's the play. Now we are going to be moving on to the leans for the respective playoff games in the NBA and the NHL. It's finally upon us where you actually have 2 game ones available in the second round after yesterday's ridiculous scheduling. I still do not know why the 76ers game in game 1 of the second round happened before game 7 of the Denver Nuggets and San Antonio Spurs series. I don't really know if that makes sense. Makes as much sense as the Spurs not fouling down 4 in the last 20 seconds of the game. Either or, props Denver for advancing, but the early game in basketball, which takes place at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, will be between the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee is currently laying 7.5, and the total has dipped from 224 on the opener to 223.5, and even 223 flat on Bookmaker. In terms of this game, I think the series will be competitive. I do think that Brad Stevens will be able to come up with some type of game plan to try to deal with Milwaukee's three-point shooting. But overall, I think we can agree that Giannis is one of the most unguardable players in the league. I think that he should be the MVP, and I don't think Boston is anyone who can match up with him. I think Giannis will go off in Game 1, especially with the added rest he's had in that Detroit series since he barely had to play in the second half of any of those games. I think that Giannis will go for 30-something and 15, and I think that the Bucks will be able to win this game extremely easily. Boston looked really good in the first series, but you have to remember they did play the Pacers, and it was actually even worse because the Pacers were missing Oladipo. So even though the Pacers were the 5 seed, without Oladipo, they were probably a borderline 7 or 8 seed, and the Celtics took care of business, but they did not look that great on the road, and they did not look great in pretty much any of those games. All those games came down to the wire, with the exception of Game 1. But Boston probably should have lost Game 2, could have lost Game 3, could have lost Game 4. All the games were close. Milwaukee blew out Detroit as they should, and I simply think that Milwaukee has too much length and too much three-point shooting, and I think Boston plays significantly better at home than they do on the road, and I would not be surprised to see Milwaukee win Game 1 by double digits. I think Boston will keep it close for a little while, but I think that Milwaukee's firepower, led by Giannis, Bledsoe, and Middleton, will be too much for Boston to handle, and I think that Milwaukee will win this game relatively easily. These teams did play last year, and if you need a reminder, the home team did win every game of this series, as both teams were unable to generate anything consistently on the road. So I think that Milwaukee will be able to keep that trend going, as they will defend home court relatively easily. And in terms of total, I would lean to the under 223.5. I know Milwaukee likes to speed it up, but the only way Boston's going to keep this game competitive is if they keep it in the half court, because if Giannis and people start running for fast break points, it's a wrap. Boston won't be able to guard anybody. Boston's only hope is to slow the game down to a crawl through its half-court offense, and to hope that Kyrie goes off for at least 30-something points, and hope that Horford, Tatum, and Brown and the rest of the supporting cast are able to outplay the rest of Milwaukee's supporting cast. Overall, I would lean to the under in this game, and I would lean to Milwaukee minus 7.5. I think this game should end up somewhere in the realm of, I'd say, 110 to 100, give or take. I think this game will be pretty low scoring, and I think that Milwaukee, with their advanced defensive metrics and their length, will give Boston some issues on their offensive end, so I will lean to the under and the Bucks minus 7.5. Moving on, you have the Golden State Warriors as they take on the Houston Rockets in probably the most anticipated second-round series in recent memory. And the Warriors were laying 6.5. They're now laying 5.5. And the total has dipped drastically from 228 all the way down to 224.5 in most spots, and even 224 flat at Pinnacle. Main reason for the move is due to the recent injury concerns regarding Steph Curry and Klay Thompson for Golden State, as both of them have been ruled questionable. I put questionable in quotation marks for Game 1. I think we all know that Curry and Thompson will play. However, the issue that you have is whether or not they're going to play is irrelevant. They are going to play. But the issue is that Curry has had ankle issues in the past, and Thompson, nobody really even noticed he got injured in Game 6 against the Clippers. Even if they do play, they might not be at 100%. And the Rockets, is actually kind of a funny story. The Rockets, as soon as they beat the Jazz and advanced, they flew to San Francisco, not even waiting for the Warriors and Clippers series to end, because they already knew that the Warriors would win the series naturally. So the Rockets are already situated in Golden State. I think that Golden State's getting too many points at 5.5, especially with the injury concerns with Thompson and Curry. I know Durant's unguardable, and I know Durant is currently in a absolute zone, and nobody can guard him. I would recommend the over in props with regard to Durant, with points and 3 points made. 3-pointers made, I should say, especially with Curry and Thompson at less than 100%. But Golden State didn't really look that impressive against the Clippers. They did at times, but they did lose both home games to the Clippers. They're 1-2 at home so far in the postseason, which is definitely not impressive, where Houston was able to win all their home games against Utah. I think 5.5 is too much. I think Houston's actually a live dog in this game, but knowing Golden State and knowing how they tend to come back in the second half, if you don't mind taking a riskier play, if you think that 5.5 and you'd rather get more of a return instead of minus 110 on the Rockets with plus 5.5 in the full game, Taking the Rockets money line in the first half, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially with Curry and Thompson at less than 100%, and the Rockets with Harden and Chris Paul. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come out trying to fire, trying to knock out a first punch to try to steal one game early on the road. And Golden State has tended to sleepwalk in the first half of games in the playoffs in recent years. So Houston on the first half money line, I think, makes a lot more sense if you want a plus return on your bet. But in terms of that game, I will lean to the under, and I will lean to the Rockets plus 5.5. And if you like the Rockets, I'd recommend taking it now at plus 5.5, as that line will continue to drop closer to tip because of the injury concerns that I mentioned before. Now, moving on to hockey, there are 2 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs, which we will cover on Sunday. But first game, the early game at 3 p.m., is between the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. First game, as everybody knows, was 1-0. It went to overtime at 0-0, as Carolina was able to steal home ice advantage away from the Islanders by winning with a goal from Jordan Staal. Total in this game is at 5 naturally. In terms of the lines, it's mostly a -110 or -115 to the under in pretty much every book available. And the Islanders are currently a -135 money line in most spots, opened up at -140. In terms of the games, I'm an Islanders fan personally. I'm not really concerned about game 1. You lose a 1-0 game in overtime. Both goalies had 31 saves. They were fantastic. Islanders had a goal waved off in the second period due to a questionable goalie interference. Thought the game was dead even. Both teams looked very equal, and both teams had a lot of chances, and both goalies stood up to those challenges. In terms of this game, I'd lean to the Islanders based on how they played defensively. I think they missed a couple of chances. They weren't great on the power play. I think that the Islanders will be able to even it up at 1-1 because they cannot afford to go down 2-0 in a hockey series, losing both games at home. And in terms of the total, I will lean to the under. However, 5 is a little bit of a sketchy number in hockey because of the empty netters attachments with these playoff games. So I will lean to the first period under instead. The juice is a lot higher, but knowing how both teams have played relatively conservatively so far this series, I would not be surprised to see this game have less than 2 goals in the first period. So I would lean to the first period under 1.5 as a better play than the total 5 for the entire game. Now moving on, you have the late game between the Colorado Avalanche and the San Jose Sharks. We actually gave out a play on Scott Selections on statsalt.com and StatSalt YouTube channel. We had San Jose in regulation winning at plus 120. They ended up winning 5-2 after coming from behind down 2-1 in the second period. In this overall, Grubauer was not great for Colorado, and Martin Jones has been great since he was pulled in the middle of that Vegas series in the first round. He's been fantastic. San Jose's offense has looked great. Burns was unbelievable. He had a goal and multiple assists in game 1. Carlson's still a force defensively. Couture is great. Still, status of Joe Pavelski is still unknown for this game as he's still dealing with concussion-like symptoms after the injury suffered in Game 7. But Couture's been great. Hertl's been great. Even Meyer's been great. Overall, San Jose is the deeper team. I think they have the better goalie. I think Colorado's issue is that they have one line in McKinnon and Rantanen in that power play that actually score goals. And other than that, their 3 other lines don't really do much. So I think San Jose is the deeper team. I think they're the better team. And I would lay the -137 as the cheapest line on Bet Online. I would lay that with San Jose. And I would be tempted to lay the -1.5 with San Jose for a plus price if you want some extra value on that game. But just a quick reminder, the play of the day is on the New York Yankees money line at -111 at 5 dimes. But that's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections here with winnersandwhiners.com. I also have given out a play of the day on the StatSalt YouTube channel, so if you want to check that one out, it's also on baseball if you want to check that one out. Just search up StatSalt on YouTube if you're not subscribed already, and check that one out if you want additional play. But my name is Scott Rochelle. I hope that you enjoyed the inaugural video with Winners and Whiners, and we will be back tomorrow with another play of the day. So good luck to all of you and your respective bets this Sunday. Bye, everybody.